Hello everyone, and welcome to the conclusion and first air poll for the Steadfast Pack, which of course is led by Petra and Charon. Petra of course has -1 stamina and -1 health, but +2 speed and neutral strength. And Charon, do we ever actually look at his stats? I don't know, but he has +1 strength, -1 stamina, +1 speed, and -1 health. Actually, that's a pretty similar spread to Petra, the difference being that he has 1 less point in speed and 1 more in strength. Man, they really are a perfect match for each other, but I bet we're going to see a lot of similar stats amongst the pups then. We will have to see. But let's go ahead, we'll take a look at the pups here, and then we'll age up the survivors. We had 5 of the 6 who made it, fortunately, although unfortunately we did lose Frost to an eagle earlier on in the litter. Let's take a look at Flint here, and it doesn't look like we had any runts either. I'm not seeing any noted as that, but it looks like, ooh, similar to both of his parents. 1 strength, -2 stamina, +2 speed, and -1 health, so a little lowered stamina than either one of them, but he got that strength boost in addition to the speed boost, so he'd be a pretty quick wolf with a little bit of a bite as well. But that is Flint. He probably, well, we'll see which ones have black versus gray coats. It's sometimes hard to call when they're still young like this. But next up we have Onyx, and so Onyx has 0 strength, 0 stamina, 1 speed, and -1 health. So again, similar, still that plus to speed, but actually neutral stamina, which is higher than either of her parents. They both had -1s. Next up, we have Everest, who has a much paler coat. Actually, I'm curious to see which one he'll get. But he actually has, I think, an identical stat spread to Petra. Yes, he does. So 0 strength, -1 stamina, +2 speed, and -1 health. So again, a very quick wolf, but not quite as fast, or doesn't quite have as much endurance. He is quite fast, but he can't run for as long, and he can't fight for as long either. Then we have Valor, who has 1 strength, -1 stamina, 1 speed, and -1 health. Again, kind of a combination of his parents by the looks of it, with a little bit of higher strength, but not quite as high speed. Actually, no, he has an identical one to Charon. Yeah, actually, yeah, he just inherited his dad's stat spread there, which is kind of a, they have very similar stats here. But yeah, so a little bit stronger, a little bit faster, but not quite as much endurance for Valor either. And finally, of the survivors, we have Phoenix, who has an identical stat spread: 1 strength, -1 stamina, 1 speed, and -1 health. So again, a little stronger, a little faster, not as much endurance. And then lastly here we have Frost, who unfortunately did not make it very far. She was taken by an eagle pretty early on. She had 1 speed and -1 health, but otherwise neutral stats. I think that's identical to, yep, identical to Onyx here. But let's go ahead and we will age up the survivors and take a look at them as their adult coats, and then you guys will have the chance to vote on which one you want to see be the heir for the litter to run against the heirs from any other future litters. There'll be linked in the video description, as well as a quick reference spreadsheet so that you can easily see which of the characters have what stats and some details about if any of them have any particular preferences or such not. Alright, and here we are. First up we have Flint, who actually, his coat color changed quite a lot. This is a genetic black coat, even though it's got white fur. Wolf genetics are weird, but yeah, he actually must have lightened up a lot when he got to be an adult there. That's pretty interesting how sometimes the coat colors can change. But it looks like this is, we scroll down, the 755M coat from the Hall of Fame. We've seen it pop up a few times, but it is a very, very pretty coat. And he also has these kind of darker colored eyes. Very, very pretty, very, very kind of, they've just got a little bit of that, like they've got a bit of that saturation. So even though they're pretty dark tinted, they've got kind of still a lot of color to them, I guess. It's hard to describe colors with words sometimes. But let's go ahead, we'll listen to his howls. Ooh, a slight bit of a quieter one there. And then for his secondary, that's a higher pitched one. And then, of course, for these customizations, they don't roll randomly except for the radio collar, which he did not get. However, there will be coming up here a link to a post on Patreon in the video description, where if you are a member of my Patreon and supporting the channel there, you'll have the option to suggest ideas for a wolf story. And basically, these are things that could have happened to them in the time between when they were a pup and when they became an adult. And so that could be something like getting into a fight, getting a torn ear, something like that. Little bits and pieces of their story that could give them like a customization here. So if you have any ideas for that, you can submit those there if you are a member of the Patreon. And I'll go through and potentially draw some of those ideas for the wolves as an adult when they go on to have their own stories. But for now, we're not going to be messing with these. We already saw his stats earlier, and again, for the pups, we don't get to see their personalities, although with Petra and Charon's pups, they were all pretty bold. I think all of them probably are going to end up being pretty bold. So we will see. I think they took a lot after their parents in that regard. They seemed like they were quite the wandering set. But that is Flint, and next up we have Onyx, and I'm probably never going to say her name the same way twice. I keep alternating my pronunciation of it. Oh no, I'm sorry, hon. Oh my goodness. But she got the 9F coat from the founders. Have we seen this one recently? I don't know, because we've seen some of the Spitfire coat. That's the one that Cassia has, but I don't know that I've actually seen this coat for quite a while. It's got kind of an interesting, almost reddish patches on the back there, and on the tail and on the legs as well. It's a very interesting coat. I don't know that I've ever actually seen this one, or like I've obviously seen it, but I don't know that I've ever seen it on any of our pups before. That's pretty interesting. But she also did get, oops, not howls. She got these brighter yellowy kind of eyes. They work really well with this coat. They stand out quite a lot. And let's go ahead and listen to her howls as well. Slight bit of a deeper one, and then for her secondary. Little bit of a higher one. Again, we're not going to see much in the way of customizations here, but she did not roll the radio collar. We already took a closer look at her stats earlier, and again, probably a pretty bold personality. She also did have a close call with illness right at the end of the litter, but fortunately she recovered. Actually, Flint had fallen sick as well at one point, but all the pups recovered. In fact, there's only one pup this litter who didn't end up getting sick, which is kind of wild. That's 5 of 6. So it's a little bit more rare to not have gotten sick in this litter. However, of those that did get sick, all of them actually did manage to survive, which is a big relief. But Onyx had a bit of a close call with that towards the end. She actually recovered right at the last possible second there, right as the litter concluded. But that is Onyx, and next up we have Everest. Everest has, oh, that's a gray coat. That's interesting. His fur got a lot darker, and I think Onyx had a black coat. I think I did not actually look. I just assumed that it was, but you guys have the chance to see it in the video, and it'll be in the spreadsheet as well. But Everest actually has a gray coat. This is one of the deceptive kind of ones that look like a black coat but aren't. And this is actually one of the Life is Rough coats. This is the second one here. I think that's based off of either, I want to say this is 925M. It's one of the classic ones from 2.7, but he also got the same kind of darker eyes that we saw originally with Flint. And let's go ahead and we'll listen to his howls. Oh, and he got that really classic original howl from the very old, very first version of WolfQuest. And then for the secondary, oh, that's a much higher pitched one. He did not, of course, get any of these customizations, but he also did get the radio collar, I'm noticing, which is interesting. So he rolled that all on his own here. As for his stats, we did see those earlier, but here they are again if you want to take a look at them. And, of course, can't see his personality, but he was also one of the ones who fell ill towards the end of the litter. Fortunately, he did recover as well, but his was a slight bit of a close call, too. And again, all of the pups here are pretty bold. I think all of them were. I'm not really sure there were any that were less bold. They were all a pretty rambunctious bunch. But that is Everest. Next up we have Valor. And Valor got, this is the half black coat. It's just very pale. It is a black coat despite how pale it's looking. Is this the one that Maple has? No, that's the 21M one. But again, a very pretty coat, and got some of that reddish tint from Petra, it looks like. It's almost kind of a pinkish reddish looking coat. It's a very interesting one. And then he also got these really interesting green eyes. He kind of got some very unique genetics here. Very, very pretty though. And as for his howls, we'll go ahead and listen to those. Ooh, that's a really deep, really regal kind of sounding one. And then for his secondary, a bit of a higher one. No customizations here, of course, and it looks like he did not get the radio collar. But as for his stats, we saw him earlier. You can take a look at them again here if you'd like. And as for his story, he was actually the only pup who never fell ill out of a litter of 5. It's kind of amazing. It's kind of amazing to me how much the sickness had an impact on this particular litter. But that is Valor. And next up we have Phoenix, who it looks like has had a bit of a story. I don't know what happened to lend her this scar, but she actually has one of the Life is Rough coats as well from the first pack here. And this is, I believe, I want to say either 778M or Middle Grade from Lamar Canyon. I want to say it's either one of those. That it's based off of. I think it's one of them, but I can never remember exactly which is which. But it looks like she's gotten in a fight with a bear or a cougar or something at some point, which fits considering how bold most of these puppies were. She also has these very bright kind of golden eyes. They really suit her coat as well. They stand out amid the warm tones, and this is a gray coat. So she has 2 gray coat genes. You can see either one pop up from this particular pairing, but let's go ahead and we'll listen to her howls as well. Ooh, that's a higher pitched one. And then for her secondary, also quite a high-pitched one. Again, no customizations here, no radio collar. We saw her stats earlier, but here they are again. They're fairly neutral, +1s and -1s. And as for her story, she did end up getting sick earlier in the litter and recovering, which is part of what lent her her name, having bounced back from the brink like that. But yeah, so these are the pups from this particular litter. Whoever you go on to vote for here as a potential heir will run against the candidates from any future litters that Petra has, and whatever one ends up surviving from that, whichever survivors get voted in as the candidates from future litters will run against each other then to be determined who the actual heir is. And some of these wolves may pop up in Lost Tales stories as well, considering as they are from our main legacy. We're still finishing up Lost Tales from previous years and from previous generations, but you might see some of these guys start to be sprinkled into the running sooner rather than later here. But we're going to go ahead and end this off here for today, so thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you've enjoyed the episode. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I will see you guys next time. But until then, this is Jay, over and out.